of GMAT, and obviously we are going to bust some myths around GMAT and the GMAT policies and all. So stay tuned till the end. So I welcome you, Miss Seema.
Thank you so much, Deepak. Happy to be here.
All right, great. So let's begin today's session. So just to understand the audience for today, if you can please post your profile details in the chat box. If you can please put your undergraduate score, university course that you have completed, and the number of years of work experience so that I can help you better that which program would be more suitable for you to go ahead with. And at the end, we can probably pick up a couple of profiles and do a live profile analysis. That'll be great. All right. I can see a few students in the queue. So do you mind if I wait for another 30 seconds?
It's fine by me.
All right. All right. So let's begin today's session. As I can see, a few students have started posting their profile details in the chat box. That's good. So everyone, please start posting your profile details. We'll do a quick profile analysis at the end. All right. So let's begin today's session and understand the agenda. So firstly, we're going to cover the management education spectrum. What are the different kind of programs offered by the universities? And a lot of students have queries around like what is a deferred MBA, what is a global MBA, what is MIM, what is a business master or a specialized masters, how is it different from an executive MBA. So I'll be walking you through a couple of slides to help you understand about the differences between the different programs. And also we'll cover the admission parameters and the weightage of each of these parameters. We'd also cover the significance of the GMAT exam because there are a lot of misconceptions, there are a lot of myths around the students that like GMAT is optional or GMAT is mandatory. So let's go deeper and understand that what kind of an exam GMAT is and how is it important and how much is it important for targeting any of the top tier schools. We'll also cover the exam pattern, the syllabus and the scoring of the test and how is that it has evolved in the past few years. And finally, we'll cover the GMAT preparation strategy, that how exactly a student should go ahead with the preparation for GMAT exam. So let's begin. Firstly, to cover the management education spectrum. So here are 5 different categories, and I've broadly categorized the different programs into 5. First is deferred MBA. So all those who have no work experience and still pursuing their undergraduation. So students who are in their final year of their undergrad can go for a program which is a global MBA program, but they can apply in their final year itself. Okay, so as the name suggests that you are deferring your MBA. So that means a candidate having no work experience, that is the candidate who is still pursuing the undergrad, can apply for a global MBA program in the final year of their undergrad itself. Colleges would find a potential in that student. If that potential is good enough to be at par with the student who would bring in maybe 4 years or 5 years of work experience, then the colleges would give you an admission. And once you have an admission and once you complete your undergrad, you would have to complete minimum number of years of work experience. Once you complete the number of years of work experience that is required by the university, then you can join their global MBA program. So just to be clear here, a global MBA program requires at least 2 years or 3 years of work experience. But a candidate can apply for this program in the final year itself through deferred MBA route. but with the caveat that the student should be having minimum 2 years of work experience by the time he or she joins the global MBA program. So the benefit is that you have a guaranteed admit with you in your final year itself. Okay. Second program is Masters in Management, which is specifically for the recent graduates or the candidates having lesser work experience, that is less than 2 years or less than 3 years. So this program would help you to develop and establish management skill set in your profile. So candidate who may come from a management background or who may not come from a management background, but wants to understand what is marketing all about, what is finance all about, what is HR, what is operations. So that candidate would go for a program which would help to understand all of these management concepts right from the fundamental level. So this program is called as a Masters in Management, and it is offered by some of the most prestigious schools, be it INSEAD or London Business School or HEC Paris of the world. Third category is a business masters or a specialized masters, where a student goes for a master's program which specializes in one particular business function. So it could be masters in finance, it could be masters in marketing, it could be masters in business analytics, it could be any other specialized masters in one of the domains in business. So this program does not have any work experience requirement. So a student who is a fresher, a student who may be having 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years of work experience can apply for this kind of a program. Fourth category is a global MBA, which is the most popular category, where the students who bring in more than 3 years, more than 4 years of work experience, they go for this program to hone their management skills. So a candidate who has a fair background of what are the different business functions, how these business functions they run independently, but now the candidate wants to understand how these business functions work together for a common goal, how to lay down the business plans, how to lay down the business strategies, how to make everyone work for a common goal. So that kind of an ability or that kind of a skill set you earn from a global MBA program. Now, this program is again offered by some of the top schools, be it Harvard, Stanford, MIT, Columbia, Yale, INSEAD, London Business School, and candidates having more than 3 years or more than 4 years of work experience are the ideal candidates to go ahead with the program. However, there are a few colleges which have a minimum 2 years of work experience requirement where it makes you eligible to apply for that MBA program. But an ideal work experience always ranges between 4 to 7 years for a global MBA. Fifth category is an executive MBA program, which is specifically meant for those having more than 10 years, more than 15 years of work experience, where the candidate is a candidate might not be in a capacity of leaving his or her job and to go for a full-time program. Now, this program is usually part-time or it runs on a digital platform where the candidates then they can take their classes online, and obviously there will be a few campus immersions that are there in this kind of a program. Now this is specifically meant for the candidates who are already working at a mid-senior or a senior role in an organization and they want to enter the CXO level of an organization. So ideally people having more than 15 years of work experience are the best fit for an executive MBA program. All right, I hope this clears the doubt between MBA, MIM, Executive MBA. Now, here's a list of schools. So you can please take a screenshot or you can take a note of it. That a deferred MBA program, which is specifically for final year applicants. So colleges like Harvard, UC Berkeley, Carnegie Mellon, Tepper Business School. You have Northwestern Kellogg. You have MIT Sloan, Stanford, Wharton, Yale Silver Scholars Program. So these are the top deferred MBA program offered by the universities abroad. Then for MIM, there are schools like University of St. Gallen, HEC Paris, London Business School, ESCP, ESSEC, IE, Imperial, Rotterdam, all of these top tier MIM programs across the globe. In fact, a lot of US schools, they've started offering an MIM program which is categorized under STEM. So if you go for an MIM offered by Boston or UIUC or George Washington, so these universities, they offer an MIM which is a STEM program. Then for MBA, obviously there are the most popular schools like INSEAD, Harvard, LBS, Stanford, Wharton, MIT, NYU, all of these schools which offers an MBA program. Now, a lot of students, what we have observed from the past few years, and I'm sure Miss Seema would share a lot of insights on this, that a lot of students they've now started taking GMAT for the Indian schools, because Indian schools they have started accepting GMAT score. They've been doing this from quite a long time, but now a lot of 2-year MBA programs which are specifically meant for freshers. Now those programs have also picked up GMAT as one of the exams that the student can go ahead with. Okay, so this is where like if you are a student having more work experience, having more than 2 years, more than 3 years, or more than 4 years of work experience, so the table on the left explains the 1-year MBA program which requires some prior work experience. And just to be clear with this, all of these programs would accept the GMAT score. Okay, so it is not only that GMAT has a scope of the foreign schools, but GMAT definitely has a scope of for the Indian schools as well. All right. So if someone who is looking forward to applying for maybe IIM Ahmedabad or a Bangalore or a Calcutta, but has a 5 years and above of work experience, can apply for their 1-year MBA program, which accepts only GMAT, which does not accept any other exam. Okay, apart from GRE or apart from GMAT, they do not accept CAT or any other exam. So colleges like ISB, ABC, Kozhikode, Lucknow, Indore, SPJN, XLRI, MDI, Great Lakes, all of these schools, they accept GMAT for their 1-year full-time MBA programs. And here is the list of the number of years of work experience that is required for these schools. Now, students who are having no work experience, who are in their pre-final, who are in their final year of their undergrad, or maybe having less than 2 years, less than 3 years of work experience, they can also apply for a 2-year MBA program in India. And just to be like clear with this, that these are the schools which accepts GMAT also apart from CAT or apart from ZAT or apart from any other exam what they usually accept. So if you get busted with CAT, where obviously the chances of getting a very high score, they are relatively lower. So if you get busted in CAT, so you can definitely explore GMAT as an option to apply for these category schools. So you have ISB, which offers a PGPYL, which is the new program at ISB. It accepts GMAT. Then you have SPJN Mumbai for its flagship 2-year MBA program. XIMB, IMT Ghaziabad, IIM Kozhikode for its PGP Finance, IMI4, LBS, IIM Goa Institute of Management, TAPMI. All of these colleges, they take GMAT for their 2-year MBA programs where no work experience is required. All right. Now let's understand the management admission landscape. So a lot of students, they have queries around what does it take to secure a top MBA admit. So let me share with you. First, and the most important thing is that you have to do an in-depth research about where exactly you are applying. So if you're applying for a specific B school, let's say London Business School, so you should have a deep knowledge of the MBA curriculum, of the kind of post MBA opportunities, the kind of batch profiles, the location of that school, how exactly you're going to leverage on the network that you're going to build in that B school. So it has to be reflected in the MBA narrative that you're going to share it with your adcom through your essays. All right. So you should have a clarity on what are your long-term goals, what are your short-term career goals. Along with this, you'd have to explain why MBA, and it has to be backed up by data. The data would be through your roles, through your responsibilities, through the kind of impact what you have created in your profile so far. Okay, the personal and the professional experiences, for example, the diversity that you bring in the cohort, the kind of struggle stories, the kind of achievements or factors behind your success and failure, activities that you have done. Okay, the objective behind those activities, what were the learnings out of those activities, what was the outcome of these activities, and if there would be any pivot points in the profile. And finally, you'd have to explain your academic readiness to go for an MBA program. Because a lot of students who bring in more than 3 years, more than 4 years, more than 5 years of work experience, they might not be in touch with their studies. So it is important that they have to explain why exactly there is need of going for an MBA program at this point in time in their career. All right. And the other important aspect to show your academic readiness is through an aptitude exam score. Okay, where you take an exam and you tell this to the adcom that I have taken this exam, which is definitely a rigorous test, and I have performed well on this exam. So this is a validation that if I study, I have an ability of performing well in the academic curriculum. So that is by scoring a very good score in your GMAT or a GRE exam. All right. And let's understand a few points based on data. So there was an article published by Mr. Sangeet Chofla a few years back. So just to take an extract from that, a lot of people, they have queries around that whether I should be going ahead with the GMAT waiver. There are some schools which offers a GMAT waiver, so I should be applying without the GMAT itself. So just to burst that myth, so total graduate management applications grew by 2.4 and 6.4% due to pandemic. Okay, but obviously during pandemic and post pandemic, the numbers dropped. Okay, by minus 3.4% to minus 4.9% in 2022 and 2023. MBA applications were drastically impacted during this period. So obviously it continued to decline over the period of next 4 years, and the applications available for seats that were available for an MBA program obviously declined from 6.6 lakhs in 2022 to 5.9 lakhs in 2023. So the point is that if the schools were offering GMAT waivers, so obviously the number of applications should have grown, but it did not. So that is a validation that GMAT waiver policy does not impact the number of MBA applications, or maybe the seats offered by the colleges, or maybe the chances what you have for securing an admission. Okay, it does not have any impact if you are applying for a school where the GMAT waiver is available, so you would have a higher chance of securing an admission. It has no correlation between the GMAT waiver and your chances of securing an admission. Then there was a survey that was done by GMAC, which clearly explains that more than half of the prospective students, they agree that use of exams enhances transparency, fairness, and reliability of the admission process. And most of the students who join an MBA cohort, be it any of the top schools, be it MIT, Harvard, NYU, University of Michigan, Ross, or maybe Columbia or Yale, or any of the top tier programs, around 99% of the students, they go ahead, they apply with an exam score itself. At some schools, it is mandatory. You cannot even skip to submit a GMAT exam score. All right. So this is a data point to validate that GMAT waiver is nothing but an option to increase the number of applications. But despite offering these kind of waiver policies, the number of applications have not grown over a period of time. Okay, so that means it has no impact on the number of applications or maybe your chances of securing an admission. Now, when it comes to the admission parameters and their weightage, so overall, there are three different parameters. One is going to be your profile, which includes your academics, which includes your extracurriculars, which includes any kind of internship or projects or work experience, what you have acquired over a period of time. So it would have a weightage of somewhat around a 30% in your overall application. When it comes to standardized tests, that is GMAT or GRE, it would have a weightage of around 25 to 30% in your overall application. And then your application, the main application that you're going to submit, which includes the essays, letter of recommendation, scholarship applications, and interview, it would have around 40 to 45% of weightage. Now, just to go deeper into this, so this 30% of the weightage is something which is not in your control. whatever you have built up so far, basis on your academic record, basis on any kind of extracurriculars or co-curriculars that you might have, any projects or internships or work experience, it is all done and dusted. But you still have around 75% of the weightage which is in your control. So if you do well on a standardized exam, that is GMAT, and if you do well on your applications, which includes your essays, your LOR, your scholarship applications, you would get the maximum weightage out of these two parameters, which would definitely increase your chance for securing an admission in any of the top schools. All right. Now let's understand the survey which was done by Poets and Cons a few months back, where it interviewed and analyzed the profiles of around 25,000 students who applied for an MBA in a particular application cycle. So they found out that how these parameters are divided into different categories and the different kind of components. So around 19% of the weightage is given to your academics, which includes your UG GPA, your college that you're coming from, your majors that you had in your undergrad. Around 22% of the weightage is given to the test scores, which majorly includes the GMAT score, where your quant percentile would play a very, very important role. Nowadays, you must have heard of a component that is STEM. Okay, STEM means science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. A lot of students now they've decided to go for a program which is a STEM program, not only basis of the OPT benefits what you get, but the kind of new age curriculum what you study in a STEM program. Okay, so this is where if you're willing to go for a STEM program, a program which has a component of math majorly. So obviously for that kind of a program, universities would see your GMAT quant percentile. They would try and find this out that how much have you scored in the quantitative ability section of the GMAT exam. This is where it is important that you should have a really strong quant background. And really strong, I mean up to 10 standard. Okay, I do not mean calculus or differentiation or integration or maybe advanced algebra. You need not to have anything related to your 11th or 12th standard or beyond. It is strictly till 10 standard only. Okay. Then when it comes to application parameters like your essay questions, your interviews, your recommendations, your employer brand, your extracurriculars, the industry that you're coming from, all of these factors would play a very important role and it would have a significant weightage of around 59 to around 60% in your overall application. This was a survey done out of 25,000 students by Poets and Quants. It's a renowned body for performing these surveys. So before I cover a few other points, I would request Ms. Seema to bring in a lot of insights about GMAT. And Ms. Seema, like I would be, and obviously the students who are attending this session, they'll be more interested to understand the relevance of the GMAT exam. How does it impact the application process? And how important this exam is going to be for the students when it comes to their master's applications or master's admissions. Right. So I'll just stop sharing my screen and if you want, you can please share your screen.
Sure, thank you so much. And so I'm going to make this quick while I give the basic details, but at the same time, I'll try to, talk about why it's really important to make sure that, you actually, take the exam. And I like the fact that Deepak, you talked about the optionality and, there's a lot of, what do you call things that are on the backdrop which people don't really talk about when they talk about optionality, which is there's a lot of conditions that actually come with it, right? I think you guys can see my screen. Just let me figure out, my mouse is behaving weird.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Just a second. Just a moment. I'm having a technology issue. My mouse just disappeared the moment I shared my screen. I'm just gonna try that again. Awesome, perfect. It's working again. So let's, take a quick look at all of those things. And there's like a couple of, as you said, myths that I would like to actually debunk as well as we move along the way. I also like the fact that, Deepak, you spoke about how GMAT is actually an exam with multiple it's a one exam that actually gives a wide, diverse range of opportunities as well. But before we dive into all of that, what I do always like to start with is talking about who earns the GMAT exam? A lot of people know GMAT as an exam, but when I often say that, oh, I come from the GMAC, which is the Graduate Management Admission Council, a lot of people are like, what's GMAC? That's the body which owns and administers the GMAT exam. It's a council, it's a non-profit organization. It's, a global mission-driven association of business schools. Um, and this which have come together to make sure that you find your best fit business education, not just through the exams that we conduct, but also through the various kinds of resources and information and research that we actually do as well. So there's a lot of information that you can find on the official website, a lot of other resources that you can actually go check out as well. And this is not an organization that started like, a couple of years back. We began in 1953, and 1954 was when the first GMAT exam was actually conducted. And since then, obviously, the exam has evolved a lot. But before I dive into the exam again, I just want to talk about where do you register for the exam? Where do you find all of this information? Your go-to website is obviously the MBA.com. And, while this is probably when you think about registering for the exam is what you might be thinking of, it's so crucial because there's a lot of prep resources, free resources that's available for you. In addition to that, when you creating your MBA.com account is free. So you can start, creating your free MBA.com account now. The only thing is that when you create your account, make sure your name is exactly as it is in the accepted ID proof, which is the passport. So if you're going to write your test at the test center, the accepted ID proof is only the traveler's passport, and your name and birth date has to be exactly as it is on your ID proof. If there's a mismatch between the information you provided on MBA.com and the passport that you will carry on the test center, to the test center on the date, you will not be allowed to write the exam, and you will forfeit the entire fee. It's there in the policy, so do keep that in mind that the information is exactly same. You can take the test online as well, though, Aadhaar card is accepted, but I still, recommend the passport. But at the same time, I do generally recommend that you take the test at the test center as well. Now, when you think about an MBA program or when you think about a business master's program, what is, can you name at least one of these things that you see on the screen that you would like to get in your life, like you would like to achieve in your life? If you think all of it, type in all into the chat. If you think at least one of these things, pick out the one that you feel that resonates the most with you and type into the chat for me. I want the session to be super interactive, guys, so add it into the chat. So which one do you want to enrich your life's potential? All, okay, current says all. Yeah, why not, right? There's increasing income. Is that your primary goal? Or do you just want to gain business knowledge? Everything else is secondary. Or do you want to expand your network? Okay, Utkarsh says business knowledge. What about everybody else? Okay, Diksha says all. Excellent. Awesome, guys. I want everybody else. Okay, enrich my life and develop my potential. Pratik says enrich. Ultimately, if you really think about it, it's, you're leading up to that, right? When you talk about income, or when you talk about knowledge, or when you talk about expanding your network, you really want to change the kind of life that you have, or the lifestyle that you actually lead, in terms of job, or in terms of the kind of career that you actually have. Keep adding into the chat, guys. Even though I'm moving forward, I'm so excited to actually understand more about what your motivations are. Now, that means you've decided that, business education is going to be your first step. Either you start early, as in a deferred program, or a master's in management, or other business masters specialized programs, or you might be working for some time Either you decide to work for some time or you have been working for some time and you decide to go ahead and do an MBA program. Because one of the, key benefits of going for a business education is when you think about career, you're not limited by industries. You can lead a business, or you can, hold a leadership role in any kind of industry that you choose to. So the diversity in terms of the work that you do or the industries that you work in and the kind of opportunities you can get immediately, increases. So now that you decided that, the first step is obviously the GMAT exam. Well, a lot of times, people do come and ask me, well, there are other exams like, that's accepted for, by the business schools. But why the GMAT exam? Like, how is that actually going to help you? Well, one, I can guarantee you that, when you look at the business schools, you'll find you can check the class profiles. About 60 to 70% of the class profile actually still comes from the GMAT exam. And if you look at the, MBA enrollments, you'll see 9 out of 10 MBA enrollments are actually still, made using a GMAT score as well. And if you take a look at the acceptance, you can look this up on the web again. There's no other exam which is as accepted for business education as much as GMAT is. And the numbers are pretty high, like it's across 2,400 institutions and organizations, and across various kinds of programs, including business masters, including your MBA program, your full-time MBA programs, your part-time MBA programs, your executive MBA programs, and more. While it's not like a one fits, a fit solution for everything, it does give you a diverse opportunity within the business education ambit. Now, why, how does a strong GMAT score help you? Well, when you apply to the business schools, I know Deepa covered a good part of it. I want you to tell me, what do business schools look for in you to give you an admit? Can you type into the chat? How are they evaluating you? What are the different things that they look at? Enter into the chat, guys. Let's say you're applying for an MBA or a business master's program. What would the admissions team evaluate you on? What are the various aspects or components of an application that would help them determine that you're a fit profile? Leading skills, okay, leadership skills, all right. Your past experience, how relevant, okay, your relevancy and the progression in your experience, absolutely. What else? Is that it? There's no there's a lot of things. Being logical in companies, taking decisions. Yes. Again, your critical thinking skills, your analytical skills, your problem solving skills, absolutely. What else, or what are the components will they actually look at? Let's take it from that objective perspective as well. We talked about work experience. We talked about your leadership skills and how you showcase those skills. Maybe you showcase those skills through the essays that you write, or the kind of initiatives that you have actually taken. Not maybe there's not diverse opportunities available to you, but the fact is, how much of an effort have you taken? What about letters of recommendations, guys? Nobody talked about that. It's not about, how good or what higher position a recommender holds, but it's about how well they have actually recommended you. So you have numerous these kinds of stuff, right? I mean, your essays, recommendation, initiatives, maybe internships and other things. So when a range of candidates actually apply to the business schools, some people, nobody mentioned this, by the way, but what about academic record? Do you think that's not important? So obviously, some people may have strong academic records. Some people may have, really relevant work experience to talk about, great organizations that they come from there, and a lot of leadership skills and stuff. What GMAT does is it levels the playing field. It gives you the opportunities through a strong score to showcase to the business schools that you are ready to tackle the business education. And even if you did not get a great academic score, right, it levels the playing field a bit for you to showcase to the business school, maybe because of something things didn't work out. But you know what? I actually do have the skills necessary to succeed in the business education. Now, Having said that, let's talk about something that's like really essential. How many of you want scholarships? Type in a yes or no into the chat again. If you want scholarships, type in a yes. If you don't want a scholarship, type in a no. This is the fastest I've got an answer from you guys. You might be thinking, like, Seema, what a stupid question, right? Why would you even ask that question? Why would we not want a scholarship? Well, GMAT is a part of the eligibility criteria for scholarship. For those of you who are thinking about test optionality, well, first of all, I told you that it comes with a lot of conditions. Like even if some school says that, yeah, you do have to maybe submit additional essays, you need to have a stellar profile, but there's no guarantee of an admit, and there's heck of a no guarantee of scholarships either. If you're thinking about scholarship, you have to make sure that your profile is as competitive as possible. And that's where GMAT really factors in. And I would say that, getting a higher score or a higher percentile on GMAT would be really advantageous in this case because you're really showing the business school that you have what it takes, right? And, there are various kinds of scholarships. There are merit-based scholarships that, in all of the cases, you need to have a strong record in terms of academics, experience. It's a combination of things, something that's really attractive to the business school, and strong essays as well. But alongside that, if you need to make sure that you are really, let's say, if you're asking a school for funding, you have in the case of merit-based scholarship, if they like your profile, then they will give it to you while you're doing your regular application. Now, if you are looking for a need-based scholarship along with your strong profile, you would have to submit documentation in terms of why you cannot support the funding, and they will consider you for that scholarship. There's diversity and inclusion-based scholarship. If you are a woman, also there's Forte Fellowship, where there are various business schools partnered with Forte, and they enable you to get funding from these partner schools when you get an admit. There's numerous other kinds of scholarship that you can look up on the business school website, and the common thing obviously is the strong GMAT score. And at the end of the day, a lot of, while this is not a mandate, but a lot of consulting and financial firms, people who have got into it, whether it be an internship or whether it be a job, they found that having a GMAT score really does help them get those, roles, because at the end of the day, GMAT is a serious exam, and people do value the scores in the exam. And as I've already mentioned, the scores that you see on the exam are something that really tells a business school or tells the employers that you have what it takes to succeed in their environment. So having talked about, the advantages or the benefits of the GMAT exam, I think I'll kind of like skip this slide because Deepak has already spoken about it. But at the same time, I just want to quickly touch upon one factor, that is, when people typically always thought about GMAT exam, they would think MBA programs, but that's not the case. There's various kinds of programs. We talked about the STEM business masters, the other specialized business masters, the full-time flagship MBA programs that are there in India as well. Well, GMAT is an AICTE ratified exams, which means that it is accepted alongside CAT, MAT, and all of the other management higher education exam that's available to you guys. So your full-time, that's full-time MBA programs that we speak about here. Now, besides that, how does the GMAT exam look like? Let's debunk one myth. A lot of times I come across this, it looks like a hard exam. It has to be complicated, right? And here's what I want to tell you, the GMAT exam did undergo a change recently, which made it simpler from a perspective of the amount of content that's actually covered on the exam, the time that you would have to, sit to take the exam, and a lot of other factors. Let's talk about the content itself. What's tested on the GMAT exam? You have quantitative reasoning, verbal reasoning, and data insights. For those of you who are like, me, I used to think that, oh my God, quantitative reasoning, it's got to be complex, right? But the fact is, it's just testing you on your basic below 10th grade arithmetic and algebraic skills. It's about using your foundational knowledge into real world business problem solving environment. And that's just about it. You have your verbal reasoning, in which you have just critical reasoning and reading comprehension, which is again about looking at information given in a textual format, how different parts of the text relate to each other logically. How does the development of a quantitative idea actually take place in a text? And that's just about it. The moment you look at it from a logical perspective, you'll see that there's not a lot of you might have like five, six different question types associated with each kind of topic. And you just have to know how that works, what kind of skills that are tested, and that's it. So there's very less content for you to actually cover. If you look at data insights, don't go by the fancy topics. It's quite simple, really. You have multi-source reasoning, table analysis, graphics interpretation, two-part analysis, and data sufficiency. I think you will agree with me when I say that data has become a very integral part of today's world. It's always been important, but even more so today, especially because every single decision making in every kind of environment is driven by data. And that's literally what data insights test you on. It's testing you on your ability to look at information either in the number format or in a verbal format and come to meaningful conclusions or answer questions basis that. It's not complicated. You just have to get a hang of what what skills are being tested, and then do your practice, and then you're good to go. Even our study planner that we released for the newer version is just about 6 weeks, and that's all it takes to really, if you put in dedicated amount of prep, that's the amount of time you need to be prepared for the GMAT exam. Each section has a duration of 45 minutes. Each section has a score range of 60 to 90. Quant is 21, verbal 23, and data insights 20 questions. And each section contributes equally to the total score of 205 to 805, which is 64 questions in 2 hours and 15 minutes, which means that you have about 2 minutes per question, which is a lot of time, guys, in comparison to a lot of other exams which are actually out there. Now, whether you are starting off, whether you are still in your undergraduate, or whether you've just got about one year or less than 1 year or 2 years of experience, um, because typically for an MBA program, you need an average of 4 to 5 years of experience, or you can go for a deferred program is still in your undergraduate. You can take the GMAT exam whenever you're ready for it or whenever you have time to prepare for it, because your score is going to be valid for 5 years. So you don't have to be under any undue pressure. So how is a score calculated? A lot of times people get intimidated by, there's a lot of communication saying that, oh my God, the algorithm is like this and that. Let me simplify it for you. It's your GMAT exam, yes, it's question adaptive within a section, which means that the total answer that you get does depend upon the difficulty matching. One, for instance, you cannot move from question number one to question number two without answering question number one. When you answer question number one right, and when you move to question number two, the question two's difficulty increases. And if you proceed the same way, the next question, difficulty increases and so on. If you get a question wrong, the next question, kind of like decreases a bit in difficulty. But please let me assure you that this is a very gradual process across the entire section. Not like a sudden dip, like, okay, I got a question wrong, and then it's like immediately going down. All right. So this difficulty matching is taken into consideration. The questions that you get right or wrong are taken into consideration. The position of those questions are taken into consideration, and a lot of other statistical characteristics are taken into consideration. And none of these aspects, um, you know, are available to you. This is a proprietary information, which means that don't focus on the algorithm, because the one thing that's in your control is to make sure that you look at the questions, you try to understand the type of questions, what format is there, what are the skills that are tested, and just focus on that. The moment you shift your focus onto something that is not within your control, you start panicking, which is why a lot of people actually do great well on the practice exams, but the moment they go on to the actual exam, they start panicking because they're focusing more on something that's not actually within their control. You don't have to bother about this. The moment you got everything else right, this will naturally fall into place. All right. Now, a couple of features that are really relevant for you to understand that makes your life easy. Again, I told you that GMAT is a simple exam if you follow the right approach. I talked about how the adaptiveness works, right? So if you ever see yourself spending more than 2 minutes on a question, answer the question, bookmark it if you want to come back to it, and move on. At the end of a section, if you have a couple of minutes, you can come back and review as many questions as you want, or you can, review the bookmark questions as you wish, but you can change up to three responses. So this gives you that kind of flexibility to manage your time better. Remember that leaving any questions unanswered on the GMAT is going to give you a higher penalty than not leaving any questions, than getting a question wrong. So don't worry about getting a question wrong in GMAT. The second thing is selecting the section order. You can decide what comes first, second, and third, but you'll have to make that choice just before the exam starts. Do not think that there's a one fit solution for everything. You'll have to try out different orders that works for you to understand what you need to follow during the exam. Don't try to figure out things during the exam, because you need to be completely, what do you call, clear about how you're going to go through it, the way you're going to approach it, whether how you're going to use your scratch pad. All of those things should not come as a surprise to you on the exam. That's your test taking skill, right? You do have a 10-minute break that you can take after the first section or second section. You should have decided this as well. Now, if you're somebody with special needs, please understand that we have a very confidential process. You can write to test accommodations at gmac.com and provide the right kind of documentations if you need additional assistive technology, time, or any other tools. Let's quickly look at the score percentiles. Well, the GMAT score, underwent a recalibration when we updated the scores last 2020 for 2023, end of 2023. That's when we introduced a new version of the exam. 2024 February onwards, only the new version of the exam actually exists. If you are somebody who's taken the exam, the previous version of the exam, please understand that it's not an apples to apple comparison between the old score and the new score. You need to look at the percentile ranking if you need to compare them. The important thing to understand is when you get a 655 on the new version of the exam, you're already at a 91st percentile. All right. This is just a summarized version of the detailed comparison between the earlier version and the new version and the percentile ranking as well. If you want detailed information regarding this, feel free to actually go to the mba.com. The scores are available. The charting is actually available. If you have any further questions on that, I'll be happy to answer. Now, a lot of times people again mess up the exams thinking that they need a perfect score. I want to ask you guys one thing. We've seen that the new score is 205 to 805, right? How much score do you think you need to get into the school of your choice? Can you type into the chat in a range of 205 to 805? What do you think would be the ideal score? Or you can tell me the percentile as well. Can you type into the chat? Okay. Utkarsh says 665 plus, 650 to 750. That's a very broad range. 700 plus, okay, around 700. Okay, 710. Good. So here's the thing. I've already told you the moment you get 655, you are in the 90th percentile range, which means you have performed better than 90% of the test takers who in the past 5 years. If you are getting a 705, you're already in the 98th percentile, which is right at the top. So a lot of times, this is a big question that pops up as to, which is the right way to look at the score, or which is how do you decide what score you should really target when doing the GMAT exam? Go to the business school website. All right. A lot of them publish their class profiles. Look at the score range. That'll give you a sense of, what range you need to fall within. The median score is a great benchmark to actually follow as well. That gives you a fair sense of what will make you competitive. Understand that there's no cutoff for business schools. Either for a business master's program or an MBA program, there is no cutoff. It doesn't work like an Indian system at all. So it's just about making yourself as competitive as possible. If you get a 655 or a 690, you're already in a good place. Okay. So don't go by whether it's like the score looks like a 600 or 700 or an 800. It's more about understanding what percentile you've fallen into and what the median score looks like for that specific business school. If you're thinking about scholarship, I've mentioned this before, getting a higher percentile, yes, it does help. It does actually showcase that you have a stronger skill set, you've taken the effort. So that's where you probably want to push yourself a little bit more. But at the end of the day, the school does look at your profile as a whole, and it's not the GMAT score only that are kind of like decides your admission or your scholarship either. Now, when you actually write your exam, you do see your score immediately, but you do get your official score report on your MBA.com within 1 to 3 days, is pretty fast. And once you get your official score report on MBA.com, you have a 48-hour window to send five score reports free of cost to the business schools of your choice. Do make sure you avail this, because after the five free score reports, any additional score report will come at an additional charge. These score reports that you send, even if you don't apply within, let's say I send it this year, but I didn't apply for the next cycle, that score reports will stay with the business school for the next 5 years till the time period that your score is actually valid. So we talked about this. I'm going to actually talk a bit about, should you be testing again? A lot of times, you might have taken the exam, and guarantee you that, if you follow all the instructions and follow the right approach, you should get your score in the first go itself. But if you want to retake the exam, you do have, the option of taking it with 5 times in a rolling calendar period. There's a 16-day waiting period between two appointments. That means if I took the exam today, I have to wait for 16 days before I take the next exam. But ideally, do make sure that you understand what you've done right, what you've done wrong before you dive into taking the exam once again, because you want to make sure that you fix the problems that you had the previous time, understand where you're going wrong, and then go and decide to actually take the exam. I have a score guide here for you. This might be helpful in figuring out, what are the kind of scores based on the region that you come from that a specific business school is actually looking at. You can scan this and, just let me know. I'm going to give you a few seconds to scan this, and you'll get a PDF resource guide. And this is an amazing tool that the team has actually developed recently, an amazing one, because if you're from India, then it looks like, it gives you what Indian candidates' scores actually look like for a specific business school. If you're from another region, then that gives you the same thing as well. It's not like a global score range, but very, narrowed down to your demography. So moving forward, when you think about prep, and this is my last slide, guys, there's a lot of official prep material available to you guys on the MBA.com. There's free resources, the official starter kit, which contains very detailed information about the skills that are actually tested and the kind of questions that are tested. Do make sure you go through that. There are 2 free practice exams there also. You can retake it n number of times. But when you retake it the second time, you actually see fresh set of questions, which means like it's technically having 4 practice exams, right? So when I say practice exam, I do have to warn one thing. Um, don't expect that, the first exam that you ever take for the GMAT exam, you're going to do stellarly well, even if you did practice. Because knowing how to handle questions and exam taking are 2 separate skill sets altogether. When you take the exam for the first time, even if you have done prep, you might not see the expected result because you're just understanding the format of the exam, how all of those questions are put together, how does the time management actually looks like. So do go in with that mindset when you do that. It's the growth over different practice exams is gradual, and have the patience for it. You will see the results. You have paid prep material in terms of the official guide and its supplements. You have practice exams paid as well, 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. And you have question banks as well. And for the attendees of the session, we have webinar 10 that you can use for your questions bundle. So that's from my end. Deepak, over to you.
Thank you so much, Seema, for sharing a lot of insights. So let me reshare my screen and walk the students through a few more data points. And I request Seema to please stay tuned till the end so
Yeah,
that.
I'll be here. I'll be here.
All right, great. So the students, please keep your focus on the slide here. So as you, on the screen, I've shared a list of colleges where you might get a GMAT waiver. Okay. Now do understand the kind of conditions which comes with the GMAT waiver policy, that a student should ideally be having a strong quantitative background or a strong quantitative reasoning component in the profile to get a GMAT waiver from the university. So even if you apply for best of the schools, be it NYU Stern or Michigan Ross, you should have a strong math component in the profile. And if you do not have that, and mostly the students who are coming from business background or maybe from any medicine background, or let's say law background, obviously they might not be having a strong math component in their profile. So it becomes important for those to apply with a GMAT score. So these test waiver policies do come with a condition, but if you see it carefully, you'd find that colleges do recommend you to take GMAT. Okay, it is not about they recommend or they encourage you to apply without a GMAT score. They would rather encourage you to apply with a GMAT score. All right. So do not fall into that trap. And obviously, there are some tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 category colleges where GMAT might not be required. Okay. So if you're getting a profile evaluated, and if you find out that which are those schools which are good enough for you to go ahead with. So based on that, you can go ahead and get started off with your GMAT prep. For that, I'm posting a form link in the chat box. So please go ahead and fill up a form there where we can help you take a free one-on-one profile analysis session. So me, my colleagues would be more than happy to engage with you one-on-one to analyze your profile based on your work experience, based on academics, based on your long-term and short-term goals, and help you with a list of schools that you should be going ahead with. And based on that, you can figure out that whether that school requires a GMAT or or it does not require a GMAT score. Now, Seema has already covered these things of what the GMAT exam is all about. Just to reiterate, so there are three sections: DI, Quant, and Verbal, where you would have 20, 21, and 23 questions respectively, and you would get 45 minutes for each of these sections. When it comes to data insights, it is going to test you on some questions based on tables, charts, diagrams, graphs, and figures. And you'll have to assess and interpret that data and answer the questions based on that. When it comes to quantitative reasoning, you would have questions related to arithmetic, algebra, number system, probability, statistics, and permutation and combination. And the level of difficulty would be moderate across all the different topics, and the topics are up to 10 standard only. As I said, there will be no calculus, there will be no differentiation, integration type of concepts which are tested on GMAT test. And when it comes to verbal reasoning, so it would be testing you on reading comprehension and critical reasoning. So in reading comprehension, you would have passages where you have to find out the main idea, and you would have to infer what the author is trying to convey in the passage. And in the critical reasoning, there will be different argument types like causal argument, plan argument, evidence argument, and you would have to perform a task on that argument, whether to strengthen that argument or weaken that argument, or find a flaw or find an assumption in an argument. So these are the different question types for what you would find on the GMAT test. You can take GMAT in any order. Okay, there is no specific restriction that you can take GMAT only based on verbal first, then quant, and then DI. You can take GMAT in any order, and you would also get an optional break during your test. So once you complete one particular section, so then you can take an optional 10-minute break before you go ahead with the next section. Okay. And as Seema has already informed you that GMAT is an adaptive exam. So it means if you keep on answering the questions correctly, so the level of difficulty would go higher. And if you answer the higher difficulty level question correctly, you would get more marks. And if you answer a question incorrectly, so the level of difficulty of the subsequent section would subsequent question would decrease. And if you answer a easier difficulty level question correctly, you would get lesser marks. All right. So idea is to solve more and more questions correctly so that you can take your scoring on the higher side. And obviously, Seema has already covered the score. It ranges from 205 to 805, where the sectional score would be from 60 to 90. It is multiplied on a scale which is only known to GMAC. And you'd get a score between 205 to 805, which is going to be a final score. Now, Seema also asked one question, that what is a good score that can help you out secure a top admit? So just a simple answer of that question is there is no defined score which can guarantee you an admit. Any score which gives you an interview call or helps you secure an admit would be a good score for you. Okay, and it depends upon profile to profile. But just to share this data, I've collated this data from the past 4 years for the top international B schools. So Wharton, Harvard, Stanford, Chicago, Booth, Kellogg, MIT. So you'd find the average GMAT score at a school like MIT. It is somewhat around 730, okay, across all 4 years, which is equivalent to a 685 on the new GMAT test. That is the GMAT Focus Edition. Now, 685 is somewhat a 94 percentile on the new GMAT test. Sorry, 96 percentile on the new GMAT test. Okay. Similarly, a school like, let's say, Duke. So the score is anywhere ranging between 700 to 720. This is an average in the past 4 years, and which is equivalent to a 645 to a 665 range. This is the range for the new GMAT test for this particular school. All right, so it depends upon school to school which score is actually going to help you out in landing up a top admit. So it is important that you prepare well for the exam, get the highest score possible, and basis on your score and basis on your profile, you can rework on a strategy of shortlisting your colleges and then go forward with your applications. Another data point that I want to share with you, this year, the 2025 admission cycle, we have observed that a lot of students they have scored, have secured admissions to the top schools, even after having a fairly decent GMAT score or maybe a slightly lower GMAT score. So that means if I talk about a school like ISB, which is world rank 27th, and which is India rank 1, which is Asia rank 3rd. If I talk about this ISB, the average of our students who have actually got into ISB this year, around 24, 25 odd students, they got into ISB this year. Out of that pool, the average is somewhat around a 655. Okay, and the lowest, where the student was able to secure an admission, it was 565. Okay, one of our students got into IIM Ahmedabad with a 565 GMAT score. So just to share with you that it is not only one component which is going to make it or break it for you. It is a overall profile and overall application that you are going to submit. But this is an important component. Okay, it is mandatory to have in your profile. You cannot skip this. Okay. Now, a lot of students, they have an intent of getting into M7 school. So just to share another data point here, this is the class profile of the M7 colleges, which includes Harvard, Wharton, Columbia, Booth, Kellogg, Stanford, and MIT. So if you see the class of 2024, the acceptance has been somewhere around like 15% to 30%. This is the range out of the students who have actually got an interview call. Okay, so this is the acceptance rate of the interviewed students. Then the average GMAT is somewhat around a 730 across all of these M7 schools. So obviously it is a very important component, and it is very, very competitive to get into these schools. So it is even more important that you score higher on the GMAT test in order to make your chances higher for securing an admission. Okay, a 730, as I said, is somewhat equivalent to a 685 on the new GMAT test. Okay. Now, what we do at Career Launcher, we help the students with the classroom training as well as online training, where we conduct both group classes as well as one-to-one classes. And we also mentor students for the admissions. So if you're willing to apply for a top tier MBA or an MIM or an MS, or if you want to target specifically ISB or any other one-year MBA program in India, we are going to consult you for that. And these are the kind of options what we provide at Career Launcher. For online training, we have 65 hours of live and interactive classes. We have full-length mocks that we provide in the program. We do provide 2800 plus multi-level practice questions so that you can practice each of the topics at a easier difficulty, medium difficulty, and high difficulty. And you would get the dedicated books in the program. Along with this, there will be a lot of one-to-one mentoring that will be provided even if you go with a group program. So you'd get one-to-one doubt sessions, you'd get one-to-one mock analysis sessions with the faculties. And along with this, a lot of students, they go ahead with the premium admission consulting that we offer, where there is a process that we follow, where we would start off right from your profile building and profile enrichment till you finally secure your visa for the colleges where you intend to join. So that is an end-to-end process for which we help the students with. And for GMAT, this is a 4-month process. So in the first month, we are going to help you get familiarized with the different type of topics and the question types which are there on the GMAT test. In the second month, you're going to go deeper and understand the nuances of the different question types and the kind of rules and techniques that are required to solve the high difficulty level questions. In the third month, you'll go for your advanced practicing, where you would start solving the medium to higher difficulty level questions. You would start taking the topic wise test, sectional test on the career launcher portal. And in the final month, we are going to help you out with your full length mocks, where the mocks are adaptive. We also do share a lot of official resources from GMAC, which definitely enhances your GMAT preparation strategy. And we'll do a one-to-one mock analysis for each of these mocks, help you refine your concepts, help you to improve your scores, and ensure that you're reaching your desired score in your first attempt itself. And when it comes to consulting, so we start right from the profile analysis. I've already shared the form link in the chat box. I'm resharing that link so that if anybody who hasn't filled the form, so please go ahead and fill up this form. And I'll be more than happy to connecting with each one of you one-on-one and helping you for your profile analysis. So once the profile analysis is done, then we'll help you out with your goal setting, where we are going to help you understand what should be your long-term goals and what should be your short-term goals in terms of the problems that you can solve and in terms of roles, responsibilities, organizations that you should take up post completing your masters. Then we identify the gaps in the profile and recommend you a few profile building activities. Once we build a profile, then we shortlist the right kind of courses and universities for you, followed by the exam preparation. We'll guide you that which exam that you should be going ahead with and how to prepare for that exam. Then we'll also be helping you out with all of your applications, which includes your essays, your statement of purpose, your letter of recommendation, which is a very, very important component. We'll help you identify all the different scholarship options which are available within the university and outside the university. And once you have an admit from the different schools, then we are going to help you out in getting a funding for your education, helping you for your visa, helping you to find the right accommodation, and we'll do a pre-departure orientation. That is an end-to-end process, right from today till you land up to that particular university. All right. And another very important component is when to do what. Okay, that is the timeline that one should follow. So please do put your attention on this slide. So for the students who are applying for the fall of 2026, that is the upcoming intake, the major upcoming intake, that is the September of 2026 intake. This is the timeline what I have mentioned here, that from April till May you should get your goals cleared. You should start working on your profile. By May till June, you should have a clarity on the programs and the universities that you're going to apply. From July till August, you have to get done with your essays and SOPs. By September, you have to get done with your letter of recommendation and submitting your applications to the different schools. Because for the round one, most of these colleges would have their applications ending somewhere by the end of August or by the mid of September. Okay, be it the schools like Harvard or Stanford or MIT or Columbia. In fact, the Indian schools, if you're applying for any one-year MBA program, ISB, last year ISB's round one deadline was 15th of September. So this year we are also we are expecting the same. For IIM Ahmedabad, it was 30th of August. Okay, so applications do start early, they end early. So it is important that you have to start early for your applications process. Don't think that it is going to be for September 2026. So you have enough time for your applications. So you have to get done with your applications by September of 2025. So that makes it 4.5 months from now to get done with your application. And this is an ideal time when you should be getting done with your GMAT exam. All right. So from now till September, as I said, around 4.5 months, what you have, which is an ideal preparation time for the GMAT test. And then once you're done with your applications, once you've submitted all the applications, then you have to go for the interview and scholarship applications by November or December. You'd get your results by February or March from the universities. Recently, we have got a lot of results for our students. So sometimes universities do roll out their results pretty late. So you have to have that runway to get done with the entire process. Do not delay it further. Uh, then your program would start somewhere in the month of August or September of 2026, for which you have to depart by July of 2026. So this is the timeline what ideally you should be following if you're targeting for the September of 2026. And recently, a lot of our students have scored a 100 percentile or a 99 percentile on the GMAT test. A couple of our students scored a 735, which is a 100 percentile on GMAT. Okay, so that is a strong testament of the kind of services and the kind of support that is provided by Career Launcher. And recently, we have got amazing admits for 2024 as well as for 2025. We're still collating the list of 2025 intakes, but just to share with you, we've got admits from HEC Paris, INSEAD, Cambridge, UCLA, NYU, Cornell. Recently, couple of days back, we got a great news that one of our students, Advait, got into Harvard this year. Okay, this is an amazing moment for all of us that one of our students would be joining Harvard this year. And just to share with you, a couple of our students are joining Columbia this year. Around 4 students would be joining Cornell this year. One student would be joining Brown University this year. And obviously, this is a clear testament of if you start early, if you have the right guidance, if you have the resources available, definitely you can make it to some of the best schools around the world. All right, this year we have got 24 admits at ISB, and obviously we are expecting a couple of more in the coming few days. And this is the kind of admit breadth what we have, right from a school like Stanford or MIT till the school like EACP, Rotterdam, Michigan, or London Business School, or NUS Singapore, Carnegie Mellon, all the top schools around the world. All right, so this is all from our end. Now we are open to take up questions. So if you can please raise your hand and we'll take up your questions one on one. And if you have any further queries or any doubts, you have my phone number on the screen. You can please WhatsApp me or else you can call me in the evening where I'll be more than happy to clarify your further doubts. And I'm resharing the form in the chat box. If you haven't filled the form for a free one-on-one profile analysis, please go ahead and fill up the form immediately. One student has asked, when can I expect a call back from your expert? So if you have filled up the form, so probably in the next couple of hours, you'll get a call from one of our experts. All right, so I'll open this forum for the Q&A. So if you can please raise your hand, I'll allow you to unmute and then we can take your queries.
So I have a question
Yes,
that
yeah.
do we have any sectional cutoff?
No, Ankita, there is no sectional cutoff. Rather, there is no overall cutoff for any of the top tier schools. No school defines that you should have a minimum GMAT score or a ideal GMAT score. All the schools would mention that you should have a GMAT score for your applications. Okay, and there is no school which is going to see a sectional cutoff apart from SP Jain Mumbai for its 2-year program. So it evaluates your verbal percentile as well as percentile, which has to be 85 or above. This is a criteria with SPJ in Mumbai for its 2-year program, but none of the top MBA programs or MIM programs abroad, they have any such criteria.
Thank you, sir.
Another question that has been asked by Utkarsh, if 30th August is the deadline, what should be the exam date? So, Utkarsh, if 30th August is the deadline, ideally you should take your GMAT exam somewhere in the month of July. Okay, just for the sake of that, you should have enough time if by any chance it is required that you have to retake the test, because GMAT would allow you to retake your exam with a gap of at least 15 days. Then only you can reappear for your GMAT exam. So an ideal time for you to take the GMAT exam would be somewhere in the month of July if the deadline of your target school is 30th August.
I just wanted to chip in here. Guys, don't keep things for last moment.
Yeah.
Just start already. You need to start as soon as possible because the exam is the one thing that's within your control. So start preparation early if you haven't started preparation already. I told you that you don't need forever to actually prepare. So kickstart your preparation, take the exam fast so that in case, you, as Deepak said, if you need to retake it again, you have time. But apart from that, you need time for the remaining things, actually, your essays and other stuff. You need to be focusing on those things by the time you start your application.
If I'll appear by October, then which intake I will get? So Anshu, if you're targeting 2026, so you can definitely target 2026 even if you appear for your GMAT by October. The point is that if you're targeting round 1 of applications for most of the schools, which would end by September, so then you would apply in the round 2 with the GMAT score. Okay, that is the only thing. But the intake would any which ways remain the same. The application window for the colleges is from August till January. For some school, it is till February. Okay, this is the application window. So during this time period, you have different rounds of applications, round 1, round 2, round 3. So round 1 would have lesser competition. You would have lesser number of applicants in the round 1. So it is recommended that you should get done with your GMAT and with your applications as early as possible to target round 1 itself. But if you by any chance, if you're not able to target round 1 or get done with the entire process, so you can definitely apply in R2 or R3 depending upon your preferences. Another question is, IIM Ahmedabad has also launched 1-year MBA program in Dubai. Is it different from one in India? No. Ankita, this is the same program that is offered by IIM Ahmedabad in India, which is the PGPX. The same program is now being offered at their Dubai campus. The applications are still open for 2025. So if you want more information, you can definitely get in touch with us.
Hi, sir. This is Utkarsh. Actually, thank you for letting this query. I
Yeah.
asked the question of this deadline thing. Actually, if I give the exam in July, I mean, and I will be having 2 months for preparing the application of the LORs and all. So, is it fine for me to have a 2 months time to prepare the application?
Um, See, the straight answer would be yes or and a no. See, the point is that if you're applying for only
Hmm.
1 or 2 schools, so then 2.5 months
Hmm.
would be enough. But if you're applying for at least 5 to 6 schools, which most of the students they target,
Hmm.
so obviously you would need at least 3 to 4 months for you to get done with your applications. So it is not that this would come one after another. The things would go parallel
Hmm.
from now. Okay, so it is not about that you get done with your GMAT first by July or August, and then you start preparing for your essays and SOPs and get done with the essays by November or December. Obviously, you can do that, but you would be applying in the later round of application, which is not recommended. So it is better
Hmm.
that you start off early and go forward with both of these things parallel from now and get done with your applications by July or August. And you would have 3 to 4 months for both of these things in together. This is an ideal way of going ahead with this.
Okay, like because I am Ahmedabad has the application deadline till 30th of August and it will
Yeah,
start from 2024 June.
yeah, that is correct. This is the timeline for their last year round one. We are expecting that this is going to be the same for this year also. More or less, the dates would be like a week here and there. So obviously, you should get started off with your preparation if you haven't started off yet. Along with this, it is important that you should plan your GMAT exam somewhere in the month of July to be ahead with the entire plan, to stay ahead with the plan.
So the dates are same for this year also.
All right, so that's good enough. So you can please plan out your things from now itself. You have 3.5 months from now. So it is a good enough time, provided you have a dedicated support and resources for your entire preparation.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So just wanted to ask, like, I mean, in the session you have mentioned, like, one of the students of yours have a score of 65, and he got
Yeah,
the admission in Ahmedabad. So,
yeah.
like, what was his like profile weightage? I mean, is there something, because
Obviously,
560 is
see,
not,
that was an exceptional profile, and it is not that the average at
yeah,
Ahmedabad is 565. It is one of the cases.
yeah,
So the idea behind mentioning this case was that it is not one factor which is going to make it or break it. Obviously, it is an important factor, but the answer to your question is that the student was working in district administration. She was leading the panchayat of one specific village in Haryana, and she was serving there from the past 5.5 years. So obviously, this brings in a diverse experience. This brings in a lot of experience related to public administration, which is a diverse work experience. And the studies of that candidate was into the similar domain. So obviously, that brings in a lot of diversity in the cohort. Okay, so given the kind of academic background and the work experience that the student had, so obviously it made it suitable for her to get into a school like IIM Ahmedabad, where obviously school has given a less weightage to the GMAT to this particular candidate basis on her academics and basis on her profile.
okay.
Yeah.
So, like, but beside delving into the detailed study of analyzing of the profile,
Yeah.
what a student can do, like, to build this profile parallelly in the early preparation is going on of the GMAT. Is it
But
something
there
we
would
can
be
do?
no general answer to this. I would recommend that you should share your profile with us, and let's get on a call, and
Okay,
I'll evaluate your overall work experience and your academic background. Based on that, I'll recommend that what all things that you should add up to your profile. And at this point in time, you should be thinking more of how to present it well. Get a good GMAT score, complemented with good essays and SOPs, rather than starting something new from now. Okay, because you would have only 3 or 4 months from now. So you would have a very less impact of these kind of things if you start off anything new from now. Rather, work on the things that you've done in your past and build up on those things and create some impact there.
okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Minimum amount of work experience required for getting admission, and how does one get scholarships? Okay, so Swarnashri, there is uh, as I explained in my initial slide where I defined the different type of management programs. So if you're applying for MIM or any business masters, that is a specialized master, there is no work experience requirement. You can apply as a fresher also, or a minimum years of work experience. But if you're applying for an MBA, the minimum for most of the schools would be 2 years in US, Canada, Australia, uh, and Singapore. If you're applying for MBA in Europe, most of these schools would have a minimum work experience criteria of 3 years. So that is minimum. But an ideal work experience always ranges between 4 years to 7 years, because you're in a better capacity to quantify the impact what you've created in your profile. And how does one get scholarships? So for scholarships, obviously GMAT is one very, very important criteria, as Ms. Seema suggested, that GMAT would play a very important role to get a scholarship from the university, because it is a clear validation of your quantitative and your reasoning ability. It is a clear indication of whether you are academically ready to get into a master's program or not. So it becomes an important criteria. Apart from this, your essays, which is the reflection of your profile, is something which would be important to get a scholarship from the universities. Thanks, Seema, for sharing the link for the student for IIM Ahmedabad Dubai campus. Any other question, guys? We'll be here for the next 2 minutes. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and unmute yourself. All right, then. I hope we're all done with the questions for today. And thank you so much for joining for today's session. And obviously, it was a day well spent on acquiring the right knowledge and information, what it is required for you to get started with your master's journey. And I'm very, very grateful to Ms. Seema to spare out time and sharing a lot of important insights about GMAT and about the importance of the GMAT exam in the entire process. And I would request her to stay around for our students to clarify their doubts and queries in future. Right. So thank you
Thank
everyone
you.
for being a lovely audience. And I'm sharing the form link for the last time in the chat box. So please go ahead and fill up the form if you haven't filled it up yet. So looking forward to connecting with you for a one-to-one profile analysis. Thank you and a very happy Sunday.
Thank you, everybody.